having finished season one, and I know now you guys are already working on season two of Born Again.
Yep.
Um, how did it feel kind of, just kind of basically, how did it feel playing Wilson Fisk Kingpin again? Was it kind of just like putting on an old, familiar skin, or did you really kind of try to play how the years had maybe changed him, or what was that kind of like, taking on this role, not just, the role at all, but in a Daredevil show specifically?
Yeah. So the Daredevil Born Again is a show that has two sides of a story. It has
Right.
Daredevil's story and Wilson Fisk's story. And this is something that the bosses came up with. They wanted to do that. Like
Hmm.
that. Uh, Charlie and I just always wanted to go back to the flavor of the original Netflix show, the tone and the darkness of it and the poetry of it and all of that. We had to warm into it. We got invited. Each of us got invited to do different things in the MCU about a year before
Right.
we heard anything, or maybe even longer before we even heard anything about a new Born Again thing
Mhm.
happening
Right,
and the
right.
Daredevil thing happening. So I think it was kind of nice, the only difference really between, well, the Hawkeye had a kind of whole different tone to it, which was,
Yeah,
they call us to do these things, and our jobs as actors are to service the story, so we do them. And so it's my job to match the tone of whatever they're doing, and otherwise, because otherwise it'll look odd.
yeah, right.
So each time I played him, like we got closer to the darker aspect where he really, which I think really suits him. Like Echo got a little more gritty,
Yeah,
and so I think we were gonna do a show that was even less, but we realized early on that this wasn't working, that it had to be more like the original show, and so about 6 episodes in of the first season, we stopped and
Mhm.
rethought things. And so now we're doing the show that we always wanted to do. We kept the idea that it was a shared show, with two leads, and which is different than a Netflix show, but
Right.
but I think still interesting. And yeah, so it felt great. I would say the only difference is that his voice is a little more gravelly, and
Mhm.
um, his relationship is even more intense with Vanessa. But I think that when it comes to Daredevil and him and their dynamic, it's the same as it always has been.
Totally.
Yeah.
Awesome. I wanted to ask about Vanessa a little bit because Fisk, over the course of season one, we see him, doing a lot of political stuff as he's the mayor of New York now and kind of slowly kind of getting back into the Kingpin. But also a big factor of his storyline this season is his relationship with Vanessa. They're going to marriage counseling. They're also figuring out, how their different spheres coexist. What was fun to you about kind of playing that side of his marriage and working with Aelid again? I think that role had been recast in the earlier version, right? So was it
Yeah.
good to be kind of back with her and have that continuity?
Sure. I mean, first of all, Ayelet Zurer is an
Mhm.
amazing actress.
Yeah.
She's just extraordinary. And so I've known her for years now. We're very close friends. And yeah, she's just, to work with her is incredible. To work with any great actor is incredible. And she's one, and it's just amazing. And I think it helps to tell Wilson Fisk's story.
Mhm.
Vanessa helps a lot, like it did in the comics years ago.
Yeah.
It defines who he is as a man and not just as a villain, you know.
Mhm.
And I think that in our show, in Born Again, in the first season, we show that. And I think anytime you show a villain or a broken person, however you want to say it or look at it,
Mhm.
whenever you show somebody that's supposedly a bad guy
Mhm.
and you humanize him, it's more scary
Yeah.
for everybody.
Yeah.
And so I think that we did whatever we could in the first season to humanize Fisk, to make sure that people understood that he was a man um, who didn't consider himself to be a villain, but the actor who plays him considers him to be broken. So it just the one thing, other than it being some amazing scenes that Ayala and I were able to do together, I think it helps humanize um, Fisk, and I think her performance and her love, Ayelet's performance of Vanessa and Vanessa's love for Fisk is, accomplishes so much. It's good storytelling, and her character is such an interesting character, and she's so smart and so mysterious and so dark and still loving and emotional and wrapped up in her partner as much as her partner is wrapped up in her. And so, that's great. It's a great opportunity to bring more to the show and for us to have more furniture to chew up.
You mentioned kind of the revamp that you guys did about partway through season one of Born Again. I'm curious, what was the moment where you kind of felt like that it was working, that the revamp had worked, and you guys were on the right track?
We knew before we started shooting,
Mm.
and we knew like during the once we got word from the bosses, which was during the strike,
Right.
that they had looked at everything and they agreed with us that it was not working, and that once they started to hire the people that were going to continue with us and got rid of the people that weren't, Charlie and I immediately started, even before shooting, when the writing was being done,
Mhm.
for the to patch up the first six, to get rid of, I think it was something like 70% of the stuff we shot, and add whatever we could to the six to make it fit this kind of storyline that we really wanted. But during the writing of those first few episodes, or the rewriting of those first few episodes, Charlie and I realized right away, oh, okay, we're doing the show we want to be doing. And then once we started shooting, you could just, the vibe on set was so much better, and the crew and everybody from, like, the PAs to the camera department, like wardrobe, property, art direction. Um, Everybody was high, like everybody was super jazzed about the whole.
And I assume you're happy with how it turned out. I was talking to Charlie a couple weeks ago, and he was telling me, just kind of being stressed about the show getting kind of stitched together. How's it going to play? And he was so happy to see it really kind of roll out and resonate with fans in the way that it has.
Yeah, yeah, people liked it. It's doing really well. People are still watching it and loving it, and here we are shooting the second season, and hopefully that'll turn out as good as the first one. And so, yeah, it's all seems to be working. It was an interesting process, but we got there.
As if what's been kind of I don't know, has it felt more um liberating or anything to kind of be rolling right into season two, and now you know who your team is and who you're working with, and you don't have to make any more of those kind of big adjustments?
Every day is a struggle for all the creatives to get it right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we have to. We're by no means are we settled in our ways. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's a very hard show to do, because you've got two very interesting characters, main characters, they live in the light and in the dark, and that's a tough script to write. And so, we're doing everything we need to do to struggle through them, get them right, keep going, keep trying to do the best we can do, keep fixing things as we go along, or unfixing things, or like whatever we have to do to make this show great. We're all working our butts off, everybody, the whole crew and all the actors. And we're also super lucky. We have such an amazing cast of supporting actors, and it's I've made a career out of being a supporting actor, and it's so nice to see these young people who are supporting in our cast be such good actors, and really brave, and trying to do all kinds of things to make our stories more interesting. Their connections to their characters, and their connections to well, all of our connections to each other, and it just seems to be gelling out, really good. They're all working so hard. It's quite a crew.
At the beginning when um, Fisk is mayor, and he certainly tells Matt in that diner meeting that he's done being Kingpin. Did you ever really believe him, or do you think he was really making a go at serving the people at New York, or was it always inevitable that he was kind of gonna come back to being the Kingpin.
Well, you can't you can't take an iconic character like Kingpin or Daredevil for that matter, or any of these incredible characters that Stan Lee and that group wrote back in the day. You can't take these characters and then suddenly turn them into good people
Right.
or less complicated people.
Yeah.
You know, they're all so complicated. And so yeah, I mean, I knew that he was going to have a, you know, just the idea of putting him in the light and having him run for mayor, it's going to cause a lot of frustration and a lot of struggle for that character,
Mhm.
you know. And so, you know, as the actor, I knew that it would never work out. You know, it's
Mhm.
not going to work out. And I even felt as the actor putting him in those situations were some of the most difficult things to play,
Mm.
and also to the joy of it when we got it right, the joy of the fact that we're putting him in these kind of domestic situations, and to put a broken person in those situations who really belongs in the dark, to
Mhm.
put him in the light is an interesting choice.
Yeah.
And um as like I was saying, as the actor, I could feel the frustration of it. I didn't like it myself.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but that was good for to play it that
Yeah.
way. So it was perfect. It all kind of works perfect. And I just think, you know, whatever's compelling, whatever's interesting, we're gonna try.
Mhm.
You know, and that's what we did in the first season. We really tried to show the complexities of these two people's, Daredevil, Matt Murdock, and Wilson Fisk, Kingpin, their lives. You know.
Totally. And you know this character so well at this point. You've been playing him for, I guess, almost a decade is when
Mm.
the Netflix show started. But, you know, are you still kind of learning things about him or?
Yeah, every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, every day. I mean, it's like it's not just about Kingpin. You know,
Mhm.
as an actor, well, I mean, all actors know this, that every day you go to work, you know, you learn something new happens, and
Yeah.
you either fail and learn something from that, or you succeed and you learn something from that, or both. And you know,
Mhm.
throughout the day, both things can happen. So it's yeah, totally, constantly learning about Fisk and about how to execute the character. And yeah, so much. That, like you said when you asked the question, it that never stops.
Mhm.
Continuous thing.
You know, Charlie has told me that, you know, you guys have wanted to be really careful about how much time on screen we get of you guys together, that it should be kind of, you know, he said that he always wants the stakes to be high. And so if they interact too much, then maybe those stakes lessen. So I'm just interested in your side of it. You know, when there is a scene with you and Charlie on screen together interacting, what do you kind of want out of those scenes?
But there's only so much I can say because we're doing scenes like that in the second season.
Sure,
I
sure.
think we're sticking to the plan where the more you put these guys together, the less interesting it is.
Mhm.
You know, so we're sticking to that. But there are a couple of, to say the least, very intense moments between the two of them in the second season.
Awesome.
That happens a few times, maybe a few times or maybe two times. We'll see. But it's sparse, but it's intense as hell. And there's a lot to look forward to when it comes to in the second season when it comes to the fans, because um, it's well, how can I put this? What we're doing in the second season when we pair up Daredevil and Fisk in scenes is even more complex and more dangerous than they've seen before.
Awesome.
Some of the scenes that we're having in the second season, there's been nothing like them before.
I
Yeah.
kind of felt like, you know, on the Netflix show, obviously you guys were in every season, but kind of each season would have kind of its own arc that would wrap up by the end of the season, and then the next season would be something a little
It,
different or a different situation. But with this one, we kind of end season one. It feels like rolling right into season two, and like the sides have been taken kind of by the end of season one, and there's a little bit more of so what you're saying makes sense. Like it feels like you really have all this momentum built up, kind of going emotional, like
Yeah, we pick up exactly what you just said. We pick up right where we left off,
Uh-huh.
and things are just getting increasingly intense. The at the end of the first season, he's declared martial law,
Yeah, right.
and that doesn't go away. That even gets more intense, and there's a feeling of a resistance being formed.
Hmm.
With the other side, with Charlie's side of the show.
Yeah.
Aspects of that continue through the second season in very intense ways. I really can't say much more than that, but
Yeah.
the story continues to move forward, if you will.
Speaking of kind of the sides being taken and the different sides of the show kind of colliding, we've been talking about Fisk, how broken he is and can't get away from his central nature. So when it comes to his task force and these loyalists that he now kind of has, what do you think they see in him, or what does this broken person kind of inspire in other people as a leader?
It's the old adage, that everybody knows in life that's spent any time paying attention to their lives. Um, Not everybody does, but I think good people do pay attention to their lives, and I think that it's very clear that it's harder to be good than it is to be bad,
Hmm.
and that makes us who we are as people.
Hmm.
Are we willing to struggle to keep our morality?
Hmm.
And I think a lot of us are.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, there are people that don't want to work so hard,
Hmm.
just want what they want, and they're going to get it any way they care to get it. And they don't want to work for it. They just want to steal it.
Hmm.
And so, in more, in many ways, right?
Right.
Want to steal it in many ways. So I think that's what's happening. I
Hmm.
think that's his henchmen or task force, whatever you want to say, are following suit.
Hmm.
Uh, Fisk wants to stretch his reach, and they want to follow
Hmm.
because it's easy.
I know you guys have been working on this show for a while. You're drawing inspiration from the Mayor Fisk storyline in Daredevil comics from a while ago. So you've been working on, you've been thinking about these ideas for a little bit now. I'm just curious your reaction when the current mayor of New York, Eric Adams, was indicted by the FBI, and then your show is kind of rolling out at the same time that the actual mayor of New York has this, cloud of kind of criminality over him. To me, it just kind of feels like it's a sign that your guys' show is on the right track and is plugged into kind of how New York City feels these days. But I'm just kind of interested about.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any interest in all that. Like,
Uh-huh.
I have my own views, the
Sure.
way that I like to behave, and the way I want my family and my friends to behave in society, and I have my own personal views about all that. But I don't connect those to the show in any way.
Cool.
I
Cool.
mean, I think other people may or may not. That's up to them.
Hmm.
But I've been playing this character a long time now. As you said, it's like 10 years, and
Hmm.
I'm on that track. Like,
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
on
Right.
that evolution of the character.
Yeah.
So that's where I am, and it's like if it's somehow in some uncanny kind of
Yeah.
way
Right.
of following what's going on out there in the world, then I guess that's all the better. I
Yeah.
think I think for both sides, for
Yeah.
for for everybody, it's all the better. It's good storytelling, and if people are getting pissed about it or happy about it, whatever, that's good storytelling.
Totally.
I remember when I was a kid watching cowboy movies,
Sure.
and it wasn't until there was a movie, a John Wayne movie, The Searchers.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, it wasn't until The Searchers when I realized I might have been rooting for the wrong side,
Yeah. Right.
you know, and in and that's a bit of a broad statement, but at least I recognized it as a young child, as a young
Mhm.
man,
Yeah.
and as Westerns moved forward in their evolution, so did I. in
Yeah.
my way of thinking about society and about people and about the natives and the Native Americans and then the whites that came in. And like that whole thing, it made the whole dynamic of the cowboy and Indian thing sort of be like what we're trying to do on our show almost, whereas like whatever's things are never black and white.
Yeah.
They mix.
Yeah.
And so that was, my the searchers made me think about that for the first time. I think that's really good storytelling. And I think that you're ruining the fun for yourself if you're just going to lock into one side of it
Yeah.
and say, oh, they're doing this because of that. No, isn't that great? Because they hate these people that I hate. Well, the truth is that I don't hate people.
Yeah.
Any people.
Right.
Whatever side they're on. I don't hate any of them. I don't disagree with them, but I also don't hate them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my job as an actor is to service the story. That's what I do for a living. And the more complex and the more, not so, gray and then not so gray areas are coming in and out, I think that's really good storytelling. And my job, if I get it right or even half right, I'm servicing that story.
Totally. And that's I think such a big part of your performance and everybody on the show, that I find myself rooting for Kingpin almost against my
Yeah.
own preconceived ideas. And then when he crushes a guy's head in his hand, I have to think, wait,
Yeah.
oh no.
Exactly. And you're at that point in storytelling, and this has happened to you, I'm sure, and everybody else out there when they've watched great movies and stuff. It kind of, what it does, it narrows things down to, okay, this is truly wrong.
Mhm.
There's no gray area here.
Yeah.
Or this is truly good and there's no gray area here.
Mhm.
Like this is when you can mix things up into this kind of gray and complex area, and what's right, what's wrong, what's true, what's false, what kind of foundation, kind of moral foundation the show is in, or
Yeah.
the characters are behaving with. That kind, if you approach it in the way that the searchers did or the way that we're doing, now it's you're able to see the real wrong things done and the real right things done,
Yeah.
and understand the complexity all around that. That's good storytelling if you get it right. I mean, hopefully we're getting it right. Like it's a struggle to get it right because it's really hard storytelling.
Yeah.
Hard to execute, but it is, in my taste, and I think the fans too, because we hear back from them a lot. I think it's what they want as well. So we're going to keep delivering that the best we can.